Okay, so it's so much easier to build gables and put them all together with the fascia and all the parts and pieces on the ground. Okay, so you see this. So you see this gable here with the fascia. Let's get this out of the way. With the fascia and the lookouts and all the pieces, so much easier to build it on the ground and then set it. Okay, so come with me. Let's build one of these things on the ground. I'll show you how to do it all, and then we're gonna set it, okay? Let's do it. Okay, where we're gonna start is we're gonna start where the truss, with the truss that's behind the gable, okay? We're gonna start by laying that out first, okay? So most gables, what you have is a knockdown gable where it's knocked down a certain amount, whether 1.5 inches or 3.5 or whatever. Ours is knocked down 3.5. So we're gonna lay out the truss that's behind that knockdown gable. Let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna pretend this is fascia. We're gonna put that on there, and I'm gonna lay out my lookouts so that it lays out 2 feet on center. And that way, your fascia, your sheathing is gonna land on the lookout, okay? So this is a mimicking fascia. So we're gonna put that on the end of fascia, and I'm gonna go 2 feet on center here. So right there, okay? We've got that 2 feet on center, okay? Now I'm gonna go and lay out the whole gable truss here. Hold me there. 2 feet and further. So now it's 2 feet and further because I've already put it on center. Okay, now this is important. On the last one, I'm gonna mark the other side of the lookout as well. So I'm gonna mark that, okay? So let's go ahead and square all the marks. Okay, now this is an important measurement, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm gonna measure from the peak to my last lookout. I'm gonna get this measurement. It's 13 3/16. Okay, so we got that measurement. Let's lay out the other side of the truss as well. Okay, now let's set the gable on our little platform we built on the ground. So you don't have to worry about level and plumb as much, okay? Trust me, you don't have to. You worry about that when you install it. Everything we do here is about measurements, okay? As long as your measurements are correct, you can adjust the plumb when it's up and installed, okay? So I'm setting this gable on the edge of our platform. What I'm gonna do is, I know this platform is reasonably square, so I'm gonna measure that distance when I nail it down, and then you'll see how we put the back truss on. So this can be anything. I'm just gonna set this to 7 inches. I'm gonna set it here on our little platform we got. Gonna tack it. Nice and flush with the end. I've already got it laid out here. The same layout that's on the roof above us, okay? So this is laid out the exact same as up on the walls. We'll tack this side. Okay, we're good. So now we're gonna attach the truss in behind that. Okay, so the truss behind, remember the one that we laid out? That's attached now. So we measured it so that it's the same distance here. Okay, so it's relatively square to the gable, all right? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna nail in a block to hold them together. Now, where you nail this is important. So I've measured down 8 inches to that mark there. Okay, so we're gonna tack that in there. Now, remember, this is knocked down 3.5 from this one, okay? So what I did was I compensated. So from this peak, I measured 8 inches. And that's the same as right up here, okay? So I measured the same distance to down here 8 inches, okay? So that these are nailed in the same place. So I've got a mark back in here. You don't really have to see it, it's okay. Okay, now we've got that attached, okay? Right on, let's keep going. Okay, so now we got these set, okay, and we're gonna start nailing on our lookouts. But this is laid out, right? So we know where our lookouts go here, but this is knocked down 3.5 inches. So how do we translate these marks over to here? Well, there's a couple ways that you can do it, but the way I do it is, remember that 13 3/16 measurement? So come up here. So from the peak to the inside of the lookout is 13 3/16, okay? So I'm gonna transfer this over to my gable, okay? So I'm gonna nail this on. Now I've cut this. This is exact mirror of this. So in this case, it's a 612, okay? So it would be point of a 612 to square. I'm gonna transfer this over to here. So let's nail this on. That. All right, so now as you can tell, I've got this mirror mirrored over, and these are just 2 feet apart. So all we have to do now is butt our tape into this and measure 2 feet and further on all of our, so that we can mark all the lookouts on the gable. Let's get that done. So we've got the gable laid out. Now the next thing to do is nail on of all our lookouts. Okay, so the lookout length is important. So first, we've got our, you know, how long the lookout goes back into the next truss. In this case, we have 1.5 1/4. Okay, so 1.5 1/4. Now we need to think about how much overhang do we have. Okay, in this case, it's only a 1 foot overhang, right? So the lookout is gonna go 1 foot back 1.5 inches for the fascia. So just 10.5 inches. So 1.5 1/4 is 17 1/4 plus 10.5 inches, which is 27 3/4, okay? So all our lookouts are 27 3/4. Let's go cut a bunch of lookouts. Okay, so let's nail on our lookouts. Now it's important you got a few marks. First of all, you got the mark where it's laid out on the gable. We got that mark that's laid out on the gable. Oh, sorry, on the truss behind the gable. We have this mark on the gable. And I also marked the 10.5 for the overhang, okay? Remember, it's a 1 foot overhang, so the lookout just goes over 10.5, okay? So we're gonna be aware of all those marks. Let's start with the gable. So we'll nail this in. Sorry, not the gable, the truss behind the gable. Okay, we got that nailed in. Now we've got our overhang plus this mark here. Come and show this mark here. We got that mark there and this 10.5 mark. So we'll get them both lined up. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna nail on all the lookouts like that. Sometimes you gotta nail it in the back of the gable to kind of get it to go where you want it to go. Okay, so now we've got all our lookouts nailed. Now we have to, we're gonna nail on our fascia, okay? So there's a couple ways of figuring out fascia length. So the first thing is, if we go here, 9 times out of 10, your fascia is gonna mimic the truss behind it, okay? So one way you could do it is just measure the point to heel of this member on the truss. So in this case, it's 11 foot 0 3/8. The other way that you can do it, and I do it all the time, is you do it with a calculator, okay? So you figure out the run, which is half the length of the wall that the gable is sitting on, plus your overhang minus the fascia, okay? I'll go into that in another video. I've done it a million times. I showed you how to do it. We're not gonna do it this time. So you would do the run, which is the overhang of the truss, plus your run on the wall, half of the gable. and then your pitch. In this case, it's a 612, so it'd be a 6-inch pitch, and then you hit diagonal, okay? In this case, we just measured the truss in behind. So we're gonna cut a 2x8, because we use 2x8 fascia, point to heel of a 612 common or 612 plumb cut, and we're gonna make that out of 2x8, and it's 11 foot 0 3/8. Okay, so I usually cut it with a chop saw. Whenever we're doing stuff like this, I have a chop saw set up. Cut it with a skill saw if you want. I like the chop saw. So I've got it set at 26.5 degrees, which is a 612. You see that this board has a lot of wane on it. Okay, this is actually a really nice board. So I'm gonna make sure this wane is to the inside. So I've already accounted for that. You always wanna think of what's the outside facing piece of your fascia so that, you know, your gable looks nice. So when it's sitting on your roof, it's gonna be sitting like this. The gable's over there. So I've got it kind of sitting the way it's gonna be put on. And I'm now gonna lay it out exactly the same way that I laid out that interior truss that's behind the gable. So we're gonna lay it out the same way. So I don't have to explain it to you. Just copy the way you laid out that truss in the first step. Okay, we're good. Let's go nail it on. I'll hold it for you, Jeep. Sometimes you got to just adjust those lookouts a little bit to line up with your marks.
I'm going to try and pick their lock.
Are they trying to work on it right now? Okay, let's nail on the other piece of fascia on the other side, and I'll show you a little trick that I do. Okay, so when I'm nailing the other piece of fascia on, I like that to be nice and tight. So I do a little trick. I put a 10.5-inch 2x8 up and behind it first, okay? Now, this can be the material, whatever your fascia is, 2x6, 2x4, but in this case, it's 2x8. So I'm gonna nail this on half and half at the peak. Nail it back into the gable. Now I'm gonna nail the other piece of fascia on here, and I can get it really nice and tight. So I got something to nail to now. Down a hair. See how now that's nice and solid. Then you can nail the rest of your lookouts in. So you'll notice that we've stopped this fascia here, okay? Don't pay attention to that. This gable has a funky end to it that is unique to this building we're building. So just pretend that it's 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a gable that has the same fascia on each side. So now we're actually almost done here. But you can see we got 2x8 fascia here and only a 2x4 lookout. So what I want is I want more support for this 2x8. So now we're gonna put 10.5-inch blocks all the way up on our lookouts. On every lookout, it gets a 10.5-inch block to support the 2x8. So we're gonna pop those in right now. Do you see, are you appreciating how much easier it is to do this on the ground than it is on the roof? Like, you know, I'd be standing out in the middle of nowhere right now, but instead it's on the ground, and so super easy, super comfortable. I'm telling you, my philosophy of framing is try to make it comfortable. How comfortable something is super important to me. Okay, now don't come at me and say, you forgot this, why didn't you do that, why didn't you do this? This is a basic tutorial about how to put together your gable on the ground. Now, in this case, you might put another piece down here, okay? Which we will actually put another piece down here into the fascia. Or, in your case, you might fill in these gaps, okay? There's all kinds of other pieces that you can put in. By all means, do that. You know, we're still gonna put a ridge piece up there, but this is the basics of how to put it together on the ground. Remember, plumb and level doesn't matter on the ground, okay? It matters when you install it. As long as you got all your measurements correct, that you measured everything, like this measurement matches that measurement, which matches where this is supposed to be, okay? As long as you've got all your measurements perfect, when you go and install it, it's gonna fit great, and you're gonna get it plumb, it's gonna be perfect. The other thing is, when we lift it up, we're gonna put in some backing here, okay? So, but we don't do it right now. You can do it on the ground. It's just more comfortable to lift it up with the machine and then put some backing in. So we're gonna throw in 2x6 backing in behind this gable. You'll see that when we go to install this thing. But we're pretty much ready to bring the machine over and get this thing going up in the air. Let's do it.